So I'm at a party, and the woman I'm talking to asks me what I do for work. I'm a dancer, I'm a choreographer, and I am a professor of dance, to which she says, "Wow, that must be so much fun." And that response used to confuse me, but over time, I've come to think it's a good one. And so now I've taken to just countering with, "Wow, you're an accountant? That must be so much fun." Dancing is incredible. It is fun, sometimes. It's really hard, intense, painful work. It can be soul-sucking. It can be glorious. But dance is so much more than just a profession. Dance is my identity. And so that question posed to me at dinner parties shouldn't be, what do you do, but rather, who are you? The answer to that, I am a dancer. I grew up watching musicals because my parents loved them, and I was very taken by the performances of Gene Kelly and Debbie Reynolds in Singing in the Rain, and I loved the choreography of Jerome Robbins in West Side Story, and I would just be so excited that I would start to choreograph and dance in my bedroom, mostly to pop music of the 80s. Now, most dancers begin training when they're quite young, like 2 or 3 years old, but I was very shy, and I couldn't be convinced to do that. So it wasn't until quite a while later, I saw my friend Erica practicing her tap routine at the mall, and I thought that was excellent, and I wanted to do the same. So at the age of 13, I put on a unitard, and I started taking dance. And to nobody's surprise, I was very terrible. But I loved it, and I practiced a lot. Anywhere I could, I would tap dance on my mother's kitchen floor, which she loved, and I would do flying leaps down the concrete in the snow. But I had a couple things going for me. One is I had very supportive parents, and two is I had access to quality dance training. My modern dance teacher in high school, she was the first person to really show me that dancers and choreographers were one and the same, and she allowed me to begin choreographing on myself and on my peers, and that was the moment of no return. I was no longer just a dancer, I was a creator. So what is it that dancers create, or do, or communicate? Well, dance is about the body. And perhaps this is why people find the profession to be such a novel one, because there aren't that many professions that involve so much time and attention and focus and analysis on the human body as dance. Now, we're all very familiar with the senses, taste, touch, smell, etc., but there's one that dancers use a lot. It's called proprioception. Proprioception. Proprioception is the body's sense of itself in the space that it is in. So this is how I know that my arm is extended out to my side, even though I'm not looking at my arm extended out to my side. And this is why when dancers start to move on stage, they have a sense, an intrinsic sense of where they are in space. Dance is about community. It's made on human beings, human bodies, dancers' bodies, that need to train and work together for months and sometimes years to get it right. And bound together over time, those dancers become a company, a dance family. But to exist, those dancers need witnesses, an audience of community members to watch in real time the dance unfold on space. In 2010, I was about to move to Jacksonville, Florida from Los Angeles. And I had just gotten a professorship here, but I didn't really know much about the professional dance world, so I did what anyone would do, and I Googled it. And what I found is there were a lot of dance schools in Jacksonville for students. There were a couple of really great college programs, but what I couldn't find were where all the paying professional modern dance companies were. And I didn't see any studios for professionals to take class. And every other place I've ever lived in my life has had a lot of those things available. It's had work for professional dancers, and it's had a place for them to take class. And here I was about to move my entire life across the country, and the thing that defines me didn't appear to exist there. I was at a place in my career where I didn't feel like I wanted to retire yet, so I didn't quite know what I was going to do, but I packed up and moved across the country knowing that I had to do something. Google wasn't exactly right. It was right in a lot of areas. There was no professional paying modern dance company, but what there were a handful of professional modern dancers, and they were really talented. These dancers had performed in Europe, they had performed in New York, they had danced for the Metropolitan Opera, they had danced in Israel, and they were the most generous, interesting dance artists I have ever met. And we immediately started working together and talking and creating, because dance defined them too. One day I was sitting in my office at the college and a student came in, and he wanted advice about where he should go after graduation to work professionally in the dance world. And I had a really tough time trying to figure out reasons to tell him to stay in Jacksonville. And so I didn't. I advised him that he should go to Los Angeles because the odds of making money as a dancer are way higher in Los Angeles. The primary issue was not that the city didn't have the artists, but rather that it had no organization for those artists to create, to perform, and to be paid for it. And over time, if there's no work and there's no money, the artists leave. And the implications of this are serious. What is a city without its artists? It provides a robust cultural experience for the citizens. Artists ask the important questions, and they try to answer them. It wasn't because people weren't going to arts events. That's not true. People go to arts events in Jacksonville. In fact, I saw more people in theater and music and museums than I had even seen living in Los Angeles. People loved the arts here. They wanted to be a part of it. They would sit on committees. They would donate money. And all I heard over and over again was the potential of Jacksonville. Jacksonville has so much potential. It just didn't have a professional paying modern dance company. So the question remained for me, what do you do if the thing that you need to do doesn't exist in the place where you live? Well, the only answer that a dancer would give is to create one, because dancers do not just do the job of dancing, they are dancers. And so one evening, after teaching all day, I asked all of my dancer friends to meet with me in my friend Katie's kitchen, and we sat around her table, and I looked around, and I asked all of these people that I respected so much if we should start a dance company. And all of them said yes. It was important to us that we start a company not just for ourselves, but one that would fit into the cultural landscape of Jacksonville. So we founded Jacksonville Dance Theatre. Our goals were clear. We wanted to provide the city with wonderful, professional, high-caliber modern dance, and we wanted to provide the dancers with an outlet to perform, to create, and to be paid to do so. And no sooner did we say those words than the opportunities came rolling in. People really, really liked this idea, and they wanted us to perform everywhere. So we began to teach ourselves how to run a dance company from the ground floor up, with no actual ground floor. We didn't even have a place to dance in yet. See, back in those early days, dance education was twofold. One was obvious, it was for the dancers, but the other is for the community that wants dance to exist in it. Art is not free. The desire for it is great, but the willingness to pay for it was not. And so the situation would go like this. A big organization in town would say, "We love what you're doing. This is necessary here in Jacksonville. We're so excited. The quality of the product you're creating is really fantastic. We would love for you to perform at our gala event. There is no pay, but there is great exposure." And at first that was okay because we needed exposure. But what happens to artists is if you start to give away the thing that you do, people stop seeing the value in what you do. And so over time, it went from just us performing for exposure to us not being provided with water or bathrooms or a safe place to warm up or even sit down when we weren't dancing. So what do? Well, we're dancers. We educate. And I would start talking, and I would continue to talk, whether or not people would want to hear it. And I talked about what it's actually like to be an artist, what it takes to train, the time, the money, the effort, the passion, the sacrifice, what it takes to run a dance company, what happens if there is no dance company, what happens to all of our students that are studying dance here, what happens if our artists leave. And something really great happened. People started paying us. We started getting donations. And then it got to a point where when they would ask us to dance for free, I would say, thank you, no. Jacksonville Dance Theatre was founded by a group of artists that loved the city they lived in and wanted to do what they loved in that city. We're currently in our 5th season, and we have 18 paid professional dancers. Thank you. Jacksonville is not, it's not New York, it's not Los Angeles, it's not Chicago. But Jacksonville has this infrastructure that supports a thriving performing arts culture. And because we're not New York and we're not Chicago, we can create our own aesthetic, and that aesthetic can breathe and grow and change with time. And that is our offering to the greater dance world. Ultimately, dance is the language I speak. It's the energy that I need to live my life. So when I was put into a situation where there was no company, I worked to create one. I needed it for me. The dancers and the directors needed it for them. But what came as a great surprise were the audience members. They told me, I didn't know I needed this, but I did. They needed it too. The story doesn't end here. We have a long way to go. We work hard. We still work to pay our dancers more, commission and choreograph more work, do more concerts, do more touring. But I know, because of the community of artists and because of the community of Jacksonville, these dreams can become a reality. Thank you.